Okay, Zoom and YouTube are talking to one another. Just a moment. Okay, now that I paused that, I'm not sure what's happening. I only did this once before, and I'm not sure where I am, if I'm in the right place. Okay. Okay, I think that this might be all I need to do, except for one thing. I would like to be able to see the comments. So I have to figure out, oh, and you don't see me, whoops. Hello. I am figuring this out as I go. Action, I'm Billy, welcome to Show and Tell. And I have three lovely guests with me today. I have no idea what people out there in YouTube land are seeing right now. I hope that this is happening. I actually want to record this too, just in case. So let me get that going. I'm going to ask each of these lovely women to introduce themselves, to say what time it is where they are, to say where they are speaking to us from, and yeah, that's it for now. And then we'll keep going around. I just want everybody to have a chance to talk, and then we'll come back around again. So Sarah, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, hello, my name is Sarah. I guess usernames are needed. So on Ravelry, I think I'm JaedeaRosalina. I'm not even sure. I gotta check that. But for Instagram, I'm on Instagram as Yarn Weaver, and I'm in Brooklyn right now, Brooklyn, New York.
So where you are, it's 2 o'clock-ish in the afternoon. 2:13.
Yes, a wet, rainy day where I'm at.
We'll be back to you. Good. Isha?
Hi, I'm Isha, and can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm speaking from the centre of England, very far from the coast on all sides, and I'm cattle and collies on Ravelry. Is that all you wanted to know?
And what time is it?
Oh,
where
the time,
you are in England?
7:15 in the evening.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Christina?
It's still sunny.
It stopped.
Thank you. Christina?
Hi, my name is Christina. We're moving slowly east. I'm in Berlin, Germany. It's 8 o'clock in the evening. And yes, my name in Ravelry is Shoen. It's a combination of things I don't forget. Shoen 31 minus DE. It's yeah, complicated. I only learned knitting 3 years ago. So Ravelry was booming at that time. I didn't have many options to log in with Christina or Christina, something easier with my name. So I used our family name, which starts with Shoen. So it's kind of, I'm not German, though I live in Germany. And I really love, I love knitting in a way. I didn't know how it happened in my life that I spent so many years without knowing anything about this beautiful hobby. It's just, well, I learned it spontaneously, and since then I'm constantly knitting. And yeah, I believe I still have a lot to learn, but I'm so much happy with it. It's my world, my relaxation, more than a hobby, my philosophy, if you want. So yeah, I see this gathering now as a little knitting group, as I don't have any. And yeah, I'm very happy to join you. Thanks for accepting me.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, there's no accepting or unaccepting.
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled that at least the three of you are interested in knitting the same sweater that I'm interested in knitting, because I'm going to be knitting along with you. And I guess I haven't really said that that's what this particular episode of Show and Tell will be about. And then throughout the course of this time that we spend together, we'll discuss as a group if we want to do this again and again as we proceed through our adventure.
Yeah, great. I think it's a wonderful idea. I find it just, it's like knit along in action, like more action, like the normal knit alongs with only messages and following other emotions. We just can meet in a real time.
Right, and to be able to show, and if you have problems.
And express our emotion, and maybe not, but also despair, or which is part of the exercise somehow.
I was thinking more.
Well, for my case at least. I hope it will not be much despair, but I cannot promise.
I was thinking more along the lines of sometimes vintage patterns have challenges, and if you're doing it all on your own and you have nobody to turn to, I mean, of course, there are people in Ravelry who are extremely helpful, but I thought if we're all doing the same sweater, we're all going to encounter the same potential issues. So it might be interesting to compare notes. I mean, that was the thrust of what I was thinking. Okay, so I think one thing that would be fun to do is for each of us to show the yarn that we have selected. So let's go in the same order, go around, and if you could show the yarn in front of your camera and maybe, talk about it, what weight, what needle size, just those two things, the yarn and the needle size that you're using.
Okay, so this is my yarn here, and just as you said to mention the name, I forgot, but I think I got it from, did I get it from Barnyard Knits or another store? Either Barnyard Knits or Neighborhood Fiber Co., one of those two stores that we see this yarn from. It's multicolored, so there's orange, there's some pink and white, so kind of tropical themed. And because even though the vintage pattern calls for both 9s and 11s, we have modern needles. Right now, I just started the sleeve, ribbing. This is, I believe, size 3, right? Yes, 3.25 millimeters is what ChiaoGoo thinks 3 is.
When they talk about size 9 and size 11, they are not talking US.
Yeah.
That's some old, I think, British system, which probably, I'd have to look it up, but it probably is equivalent to like 2s and 3s. That's why I thought it'd be interesting to know what the weight of the yarn is. So you're evidently using something.
Yeah.
Is it fingering?
It's fingering. Yes, fingering weight yarn.
Okay, good. Isha.
Oh, right. I'm using this old, see if I can hold it up. I can't see this very well, but perhaps, yes, oh, wrong way. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old wool, I think from the late 60s. It's 100% pure wool. It's a crepe yarn, which seems to have fallen out of favor for some reason. Hello, little child. And it's hard to describe if you've not seen a crepe yarn before, but it's very springy, and it's got a lot of spring in it.
Wow.
And when I knitted up the sample here,
look at how gorgeous that looks.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Oh, can you see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see it's got a huge amount of stretch, but also it wants to pull back together very well. So we'll see what happens. It's a funny sort of thing. It almost feels like cotton, or you know, it's not at all scratchy.
I don't think cotton has that kind of bounce, though. Cotton
Oh, I mean, it
notoriously
isn't cotton, but it feels sort of soft, you know, like cotton. It's funny stuff. So, and I'm
what was
knitting on
amazing. What was amazing to me is that my limited experience with lace, and I'm wearing something lace right now, is it requires blocking after you knit it. Yours, it looks like it's already been blocked. It looks like ready to wear. It's perfect.
I have blocked this section. I have soaked it. Yeah, but I
was that a pop quiz for me?
I didn't pin it out. I didn't pin it at all. I just you know, laid it flat. So yeah, and but I began on the 3.75 needle, but it was far too big. So I've actually it's a 3mm needle that I'm using.
That's US 3. That one I know because it's 3 and 3. That I can remember. So
is it US? Is it? I don't think it is US 3. It's 3mm.
I think 3mm is US 3.
Is it? Yeah, just happens to be that. Yeah,
I think because that's one that I committed to memory because 3 is 3. So that's easy. So the 3.75, I'm guessing. Well, actually, you know what? I can tell you in a jiffy because I have my needle set here and it's marked inside the package. And I mean, inside the case. Okay, I'm wrong. Well, see this. Let me hold it up. Can you see that where it says US 3? It's 3.25mm US 3. US 2 is 2.75. So it's 3 is close to 3. That's probably how I remember it. And 3.75, according to this set, is a US 5.
Yeah, I found that far
too
big.
That would be big if you're using a fingering weight yarn, probably. What's the weight of your yarn? Do you know?
Yeah, well, it's it says it's a fingering weight basically.
It is fingering.
It says,
okay.
Yeah, it says actually 3-ply yarn, but it knits as 4-ply. So that's fingering
Greek.
weight.
That's Greek to me. That's like the whole British system.
Yeah, it's all. I don't quite understand it myself, to be fair. But I'm happy with it anyway. Seems like it's going to. I did the swatch as one of the side panels, but without the ribbing. And I just practiced here the sleeve a little bit, the shaping for the sleeve. So seems like it will fit.
You've done a lot. You're ahead of the game. But good for you. I mean, I've also done a little bit. The temptation was too extreme.
But the thing was, because I thought I was going to have to make it bigger than the pattern, I thought I needed to do it. I thought I was going to have to increase the pattern, but I've got an old vintage jumper here that I wear. I don't know if you can see that very well. It's a fine jumper from the 50s, and this fits me nicely. So I put this swatch, you know, compared the sizes with my jumper that fits. So I think it will fit.
I think that's a smart thing to do. That's part of the reason why. Oh, what happened, Mike? Here I am. Hi. Part of the reason why I like to start on the sleeve is that the fit of the sleeve isn't so significant. You know, if the sleeve is a little big or a little small, it's not as obvious as if the front of your sweater is like huge or tight and pulling. And sleeves, I don't think vary so much from person to person, especially at the wrist. And you know what your wrist is, so you'd be able to see right away. Like, I think an average wrist is like 7 inches, 7.5 inches, something like that. So if you're starting to knit and you're not getting something like that, okay, so now you have to recalculate where you're going to be. Anyway, let's go on to Christina. Let's see her yarn.
Yeah, I'm using also cotton yarn. It is from the Rainbow, 100% organic cotton. I think it's fingering weight. It doesn't explicitly say, but the gauge they give here is 27 stitches to 36 rows for a 2.53 millimeter needle. So it is quite fine. And I'm like all the cliches, but I chose it because I liked how the color looked on the pattern. I just did a few repeats with the pattern and I thought, oh, what beautiful pink. Sorry about that. And then I still have my doubts because it is cotton, and I tried to do the rib first on a smaller needle, didn't like it very much, and actually it is also a little bit hideous because on 2.5 millimeter 1x1 rib, more than 100 stitches, that was for me a little bit of a torture. So I casted on yesterday, just a few rows to see how it will look like on 3 millimeter needle. It's much easier. It's fast, it's smooth. And then I discovered in one of my knitting books a pattern with similar ribbing that I'm planning to use as a guide. This one, originally designed by Kim Hargraves, but here the ribbing, it has a little bit of shaping, and I'm just thinking to just follow Kim's design for the ribbing, and then I will continue with the pattern. That's my idea now, but it can change. The
Very
pattern from the ladies.
interesting.
Just to do that, because I'm not much experienced, so I cannot really rely always on my ideas. But I have this picture in my mind about the cardigan having a little bit deeper ribbing that will eventually sit well on the body, and then to start with the lace pattern. And I thought that with cotton yarn, my cotton yarn is not very elastic. It can be risky to have a ribbing that will be stretched all the time, and especially in the button bands. I wouldn't like if the button bands is not sitting nicely. It's just, so let's see. That is my idea now, but it might need to be adapted on the way. So yeah, I'll be happy if it works.
I think that sounds like a great idea. I'm also going to do deeper ribbing. There's a couple benefits as I see it. First of all, less lace to knit. And the lace is time consuming because of the repeats and so forth. But I also like how that's going to look. I think it's more vintage somehow than the pattern, although the pattern is vintage. So I was wondering if anybody had any other adjustments that they were going to make. Like, it sounds like we're all doing cardigan. Nobody's making it into a pullover, right? We're all cardi. And size adjustments other than the ribbing and decreasing the ribbing, which Christina said she's going to do. Isha, it sounds like you're going for a larger size than what the pattern calls for.
I was going to, but I think actually comparing it with my old cardigan, it will fit quite nicely.
Perfect.
We'll see. I'm definitely going to be on the bigger end. You know, it's not going to be loose, but I think it should be all right, actually.
Oh, that's lucky. That's great.
Which is good, because I'm not used to making these adjustments. I'm like Christina, I only began knitting a couple of years ago, so, you know, not much experience.
And but, Sarah, any adjustments to the pattern that you envision, or you're just going to knit it as it's printed there?
I'm thinking about the adjustments because for modern day sizes, I'm considered petite, but even though I'm considered petite, my back is actually kind of wide. So I'm not sure if, as I knit up the sweater, if it's going to be obvious to me how large it will be, and then maybe I'll have somebody like measure me, and if it's like a bit too small, I'll add like perhaps 2 more repeats of the lace to even it out. Is what I'm thinking.
So have all of you knit lace before?
Yes, I've knitted a shawl once. It was during my early days of learning how to knit crochet, so I didn't really spend too much on yarn. It was acrylic yarn that I used. I think loops and threads, impeccable, maybe is what I used. I didn't block it because it was acrylic, and it actually looked quite fine the way it was. So it was a gift from my mother that I made. So 1 shawl knitted so far.
And Isha, you look like you have experience knitting knitting lace. Christina, have you knit lace?
I have 2 dresses. The one is not ready because I have to do the, no, but not complete lace. Wait, on the one dress, it's only the yoke lace, which was easy. And then I was like encouraged to do the other dress. That is the upper body. That was fine. It is like my basket project right now because of the sleeves, which are also lacy, and I had problems to do it on DPNs. I am generally not good with DPNs, and lace on DPNs, that was disaster. So I have to I was thinking to accumulate a little bit more experience and then do them because the dress is really beautiful. It's worth wearing it one day when it's ready. So yeah, that is my experience.
So
not much.
The reason I asked, and I neglected to show you my yarn, so let me grab that so I can show you. This is something new for me. I have not done before, but I am knitting off of these 3 cones. I'm knitting with a lace weight yarn. I'll show you how fine it is. Super fine. Like a little thicker than a hair, a thick human hair. 3 of those, 1 coming off of each cone. So combined, I have a feeling it's a little finer than fingering. And I too have started to knit. Oh, and it's from a British company called Color Mart, and they have a very unique way of labeling their yarns with this NM numbering system, which I talked about in one of my podcasts. I'll put a link to that if you're interested. This is what I have knit so far.
Wow.
This is
wow.
Okay. For some reason, my camera just clicked out. Let me see. Okay, here I am again.
Impressive.
So
yeah, it's almost ready.
But I think this is going to need blocking. But okay. Now, a little plug for Color Mart. They're not paying me to say this, but they have all kinds of incredible yarns on these cones. I think these are like leftovers from runs of knitting mills, or I don't know, but they're able to offer these things at really good price. Now, this is not cashmere, but they have a lot of cashmere things that are at very good prices, and they ship worldwide. I think within Europe, the shipping is free. It's included in the already low price. And to the US, because of the pandemic, they're charging for tracking if you want tracking, which they recommend. But normally, non-pandemic, it would be free shipping to the US. So it's a really good place to know about. They have millions of colors, which is another thing. Anyway, the reason that I was asking about if you've knit with lace before is a good tip, and this is good for people who might be out there in YouTube land watching. I put stitch markers at the end of each repeat, and I think there are 16 stitches in between each stitch marker. So at the end of the row, I can check and make sure that I'm on track, that I didn't forget to do a yarn over, or, you know, or something.
Yeah,
So
I do that.
For people who are new to lace, that's a tip for newbie lace knitters. Okay, what else do I want to ask you? Oh, I have to keep an eye on my camera because it keeps going out for some strange reason. Here I am. Oh, I don't know what's happening here. I'm getting like a message that my camera is not not popular. I got some little message like your camera's not working. I hope it works because it's a brand new camera that I just bought. Did anybody read through the whole pattern?
Yeah, I did. I tried to make a schematic of it, and I have to admit, I was so desperate for something to knit. I actually cast on another vintage project, which so I've come back to this. But yeah, I did look through it. I think it looks quite simple, really. What do you think, Billy?
I think it's quite simple as well. But the button band, I have not done that.
Yeah, because at the front,
before, where it said put the stitches on a safety pin, those 8 little stitches. I hadn't done that before, and if I remember correctly, it's calling for a different needle size. So I wondered if
it asks you for the needle size that you use for the ribbing, I think, doesn't it?
Yes, I think so. That would make sense.
Yeah.
So I wondered if anybody had experience in doing that. Do you just knit the button band straight up and then sew it on? Or are you picking up stitches as you go? Like, I'm not really sure how I'm going to handle that. I have a feeling I'm just going to knit it because that seems like it would be easy to do. And then do a mattress stitch or something to attach it. We're not there yet, but I just wondered if anybody noticed that as they were
on the other pattern,
skimming through the instructions.
On the other pattern I'm knitting, which is a Weldon's pattern, it's got something similar where you knit the button band separately, and it just says make it long enough. Knit it like a strip, like a belt, and knit it long enough, and then you just seam it the same seam as you would use on the other parts of the garment. And so yeah, I think I'm going to try that, because if you pick up stitches, then the ribbing isn't going, you know, up and down. It's going to come sideways. So we'll see.
No, I didn't mean that. I meant still knitting. Let's say this is the body of the sweater and this is the button band. As you're knitting up, I think you could pick up every every row, or maybe even in between rows, because you're going to have more stitches because it's going to be on a smaller needle. I just thought that seemed like vague. Welcome to the world of vintage patterns. So I'm probably going to do what you're suggesting, which is knit the whole thing, get it to be the right length, and then mattress stitch it up. That was the only thing in the pattern that stood out to me as something that could be like little sticky area. So other than that, it looks pretty straightforward.
What about the edge treatments for seaming it? Is anyone leaving a stocking stitch edge, one stitch and stocking stitch at the edge, or what sort of because the pattern doesn't say that. It does actually say to slip the first stitches of each row.
Yeah, and that was actually a question that I had posed in the Ravelry group, because I was thinking about it. Usually my stitches like stretch out and they look really ugly, so I tend to always just slip the first stitch regardless.
Yeah.
I was thinking
I did whatever they said, but I think, yes, it might have been good to add a little stitch. Well, it's not too late. I'm at the point in the sleeve where I'm switching to the larger needle. So from that point on, maybe I will add a little stitch. I don't know. I think this is so busy that I don't think the seam stitches are going to be noticeable. So I don't really care so much about that. I did want to say, because you brought up the Ravelry group, for people who are watching on YouTube, if you're interested in jumping in and joining us, please go to the Ravelry group called Show and Tell, and you'll find a thread there for the knit along. And probably by the end of this episode, we'll discuss if we're going to do this conversation again as we progress through, and then you might be able to join us next time. But certainly feel free to jump in on Ravelry if you want to participate without being on Zoom with us. So that brings me to the next point. How should we structure this? I mean, I didn't make a plan because I wanted it to be for the group, not just for myself. So I wanted to get input from the rest of you about how we should proceed. Do we want to set a limit, like a deadline, a month from now, 2 months from now, or whatever, that we're looking to complete this by? That's, I guess, the first topic. Or do we want to all knit specific parts at the same time, and then we'll come back at the end when we finish, let's say, the back, or finished one sleeve? What are your thoughts about this? Like, how should we proceed through this to stay on track and not have UFOs, but complete?
I think actually I like that the second idea you had, where we each work on like a particular piece, and we have a deadline for that. And then when we get back together, we can chat about any difficulties we had. I think that sounds good, because otherwise people might start at different sections or different parts of the sweater. Like, I took your advice, and I'm actually on the sleeves, right now. So I think that might be easier in terms of like confusion, getting help,
Yeah.
Well, if we do sleeves, I'm not sure. Christina's already cast on for the back, although it sounds like she might rip the back
Let's see how
and
big
start
we'll
again.
do.
And Isha, I'm not sure. Did you do sleeve?
How we
Yeah, sorry. We're waiting for each other. Oh, sorry, I think I interrupted you.
Yeah. Yes, I haven't actually cast on yet. That's my swatch. So I'm, doesn't really matter what. I was with the other one. I have begun on one of the front panels. I don't know why, but yeah, I'm happy to do anything really. I mean, I think in terms of time scales, for me, I think realistically, the end of May would be quite good, because that's about 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm
Is
happy
everybody okay?
I couldn't really do much quicker, but I can go longer, no problem.
I felt a bit of a slow.
Is 6 weeks?
So I might be one of the people lagging.
Feel right, because. Well, what I was going to say was, if 6 weeks sounds about right, it sounds pretty doable to me. But I think as we proceed through, we could push that further out if it looks like it's not being enough time for us. But I think, I mean, there are only 4 of us, so I vote for 6 weeks. Isha votes for 6 weeks. Sarah, it's okay. You might need longer. And Christina, you're good with 6 weeks?
I agree. Yeah, I think we can always coordinate in the thread as well. If somebody says like, I'm up to this stage, I'm close, and we can. I don't think it's not big drama if somebody is not ready with the piece, just to show on the next meet and see. Yeah, I think it's fun.
Of course. I mean, of course, but I think if we have sort of a rough plan.
Yeah, it would be good to get us organized.
We're more likely to stay with it. Yeah. So, let's talk about 6 weeks. Now, how often do we want to meet like this? I mean, sure, we can chat through the Ravelry group, but to meet like this every 10 days? I mean, once a week, is that too often?
Yeah,
10 days. For me, it will be,
10 days, 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, every second week will be fine for me, but more often it will be also with the little person around difficult.
Okay. So if our next session together is 2 weeks from today, is this a good time for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
And
good time.
what should we agree to try to have completed in 2 weeks from now? Both sleeves?
One piece. Let's say
2
if I'm
sleeves?
still on the back.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Christina finishes the back, or if I finish maybe at least one front and you finish the sleeves, because actually if we're all doing different pieces, it might be that we can help each other out. You might come across a problem on the sleeve and you can, we might manage to help each other by doing different pieces.
Just leave it open. Leave it open, leave it loose. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Is there anything else? I think I've covered everything. I will schedule this again and I'll put, I think we should just use the same Zoom link, but I'll set up another one of these sessions. So you'll see it in the calendar, and evidently you all know how to find it and get to the calendar. So sign up again for whatever that date's going to be. I don't know, April 30th or whatever. But I will put that in the Ravelry group, and you're all there and you know how to find it. And I think I'm fine with ending here unless there's anything else that you think we should talk about before we say goodbye.
I want to know about your hat, Billy, because it looks really interesting.
Thank you. I had a guest on one of my episodes. Do all of you watch Show and Tell?
That's how I found it, actually, through YouTube.
Yes. So on an earlier episode, I had a guest named Sophie, and she's German, I think, but living in the UK. So she sort of overlaps with the two of you. And she came on, you pop up on the screen with Zoom, and I'd never seen her before, just like I'd never seen any of you before. And there she was with this cute little hat. And the first thing I thought was, I love that hat. I want that hat. And she was nice enough to share the pattern with me. So I whipped this up. It's not knit though, it's crochet.
Oh, it's crochet.
I hadn't crocheted in, this is going to sound extreme, but 50 years since I last crocheted anything. I was a teenager when I made a huge Afghan that was crocheted. I really preferred to knit, but since the pattern was crochet and I really wanted the hat. So thank you for commenting.
Yeah, it suits you very well.
It's just for this. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's great.
I had extra yarn. Oh, well, thank you. You're very kind.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that we would have people. I see Wallace is there. She's a regular viewer of my podcast. Hi, Wallace. Thank you for being with us live and putting some comments there. She says it will be interesting to see how everyone progresses and how their different yarns knit up into the pattern. Yes, we're all excited to see that too. And as you've seen, Isha's looks already beautiful, and I love the other two yarns. It'll be interesting because we've got some dark, some light, some speckled, some solid. So we're all kind of in different realms. We're all different people, and it's going to be really exciting and fun to see. I agree. So anything else? Okay, so in that case, I'm going to say goodbye. Nice to meet all of you. And keep an eye on the Ravelry group. Hi, Wallace.
Hi.
She said hi. She said hi again. All right, bye everyone. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Happy knitting.
Yeah.
Happy.
Bye.